Hi, this is Sean Ray. These are the top 5 things you need to know about the Dallas real estate market. So the first talking point is that downtown's getting its first brewery. This is from Brian Reinhardt off of Dallas Observer, and he's talking about how the Pegasus City Brewing Company is going to be coming into this area right here off of Broward Street. It's this new revitalized area right in front of Dallas Power and Lights. And this is going off of what happened last week, how I was saying how downtown is getting a lot more renovated nightlife and scene that is much needed in the area. The Brew Awards from last year, 2018, went to this brewery, so you're gonna see like a nice beer garden area out here, the food trucks and everything. So downtown's coming back, baby. Let's get it. So the second talking point is that Kaizen Development just bought all this parking lot area, and it's going to build this massive high-rise for mixed-use space. And this comes from Steve Brown from Dallas Morning News. And why this is important is that for a long time, this has been a major eyesore. If you might know this parking lot area, if you've ever tried to go to the House of Blues or to any of the museums down here, or you're trying to find extra parking for downtown, but it just looks gross. It's been killing the walkability of the area. Now, with this being built, it's going to be the first time that downtown is going to be attached to West End, it's going to be attached to Victory Park, it's going to be attached to Clyde Warren. So with all these areas all in one cohesion, this is going to bring a whole lot new of vigor and renewed sense of community in this area that's going to spill out into all these other areas and make an awesome amount of retail and walkability. I'm really excited to see what happens, and this is probably the most ambitious project that Dallas has planned over the next few years. So talking point number 3, this area right here, the quadrangle, is getting a massive makeover next year. This story comes again from Mr. Steve Brown. Thank you so much for all the content, my man, from Dallas Morning News. And basically what he talks about is that where we're at right now, BBC, is a staple for the quadrangle area. It is going to be completely bulldozed by this time next year. It is to be in preparation for a whole area has been bought out by a development company to make this all mixed use. It's all going to be office space and then residential use, and there's going to have all sorts of different walking areas and shops and retail. There's going to be a 12-story office space right over here on the north end, kind of where Tacos and Tequila is right now, if you're familiar with their Tuesday specials. But then right across the street, there's another project that's going to be happening at the same time, and that's going to be a 22-story high-rise residential, and then it's going to be connected like a nice little plaza area, and it's going to be connected to an 18-story hotel, and there's going to be a nice little plaza garden area walking for that as well. That's going to be cool for this area because it's going to add a lot of needed parking. It's going to be underground parking. Right now this area has such little parking, so it makes it really difficult for there to be as much of commercial use as there should be. And there's going to be creating so many more potential walking traffic. With the Uptown area right now averaging 90 to 95% occupancy for office spaces, this project's going to boom the area so much. And so, man, there's so many things changing. There's so much stuff developing in Dallas. This is going to be crazy to see what happens. So the fourth talking point is that the Fed just lowered interest rates down to historical lows. This story comes from Matt Phillips from New York Times. And he talks about in this story that they just lowered it down last week 0.25%. So this brings it down under the 4% mark. Typically, they reserve under the 4% mark for a massive correction in the economy whenever we're at the very lowest peaks. You saw this whenever we saw the market crash, and to stimulate the economy, they lowered it down to below 4%. That increased home sales and put investors in the market that brought us back up from a market crash. Now, what's concerning is that they're doing this at the peak of the market. Right now we're seeing the most expensive home prices. We're seeing a whole bunch of inventory being put on the market that's all for high income earners, and now they're lowering the rates. And they just announced they probably will lower it again before the end of the year. So it's a little nerve-wracking for me as a real estate person and someone that understands how the economy works, that at the top of the market, we're cutting it down as if we're in the very, very low parts of the market. Now, whenever it does eventually turn, which it will, and it spirals down, to stimulate it, we'll have nowhere to go. We can't really go much further lower than 3%. If we get into the 2% range, it's not going to be able to be sustainable. And so it just makes me a little nervous. Now, why would this not really work, in my opinion, is that just because the rates are lower doesn't bring new buyers in the market. What's the reasoning for buyers not coming in the market and purchasing right now is basically due to rents increasing. So people that are renting right now and saving for a new home, they can't do it because the rents are so high, historically high. And then on top of that, their national debt is extremely high too. It's at record levels. A person's personal debt is at rates that we've never seen before. And so it makes it almost impossible to get a new home. Also, all the new home construction is for high net worth individuals. So even if you did want to get a new home and you're just entering the market, then you can't afford the new stuff that's getting on the market anyways. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the prices of homes are historically high. We've never seen home prices this high before, even at the peak of the market crash back in the day. So if you were to buy a house right now, it's going to be very difficult to find the inventory. So what I feel is going to happen is we're going to see a lot of people refinancing homes, which I personally am probably going to end up doing on a couple of my homes as well. But, will this work? Only time will tell. We'll see. But I'll be definitely my nose to the grindstone, so I'll keep you guys updated in a couple months whenever we get the numbers. All right, so our fifth and final point is that the housing market is probably not going to be the cause of the next recession. So this comes from Julia Falcon from Housing Wire, and she's talking about how most likely the stock market and trade disputes are going to be the reason why 2020 is going to be where we're going to see a little bit of a recession. Last time, the housing market was definitely the reason why, but because we all are so familiar with what happened last time and we're all already prepped for it, that we're seeing the buyers right now and people in the market already responding to the potential of it going down. And so because of our financially educated populace, we might be able to keep just the real estate market in kind of an insulated bubble from the next big crash. Now, of course, it's going to be affected, and places like in Texas, places like Houston are already being severely affected. So I'm kind of worried about places like Houston, but places like Austin and Dallas, I don't think they're going to see a massive dip. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of dip, and that's what you get when you buy homes. You got to do a long-term 30-year mindset, especially if you invest in homes. You should buy and hold. If you're going to be buying right now at the top of the market, right now over the next 3 months, you're going to be able to get some homes probably under list price just because of everything softening right now. But if it does dip next year, just keep the course, stay on board, don't try to sell your house. Just know that it's going to correct in just a year or two, maybe 3 years. The next one shouldn't be as hard as the last one. And then you will have yourself some stupid low rates on a house that is going to last you a lifetime. And if you turn it into investment property, it could be your retirement package. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's Dallas Real Estate News Update. Make sure to support the original authors of these stories. If you'd like more details on any of the things we went over in this video, make sure to go to my blog section at seanrayrealty.com. Check back in next week for next week's update. And if you guys are bored this Thursday, make sure to come check out and support BBC in their last year in business. They got a fun karaoke night, which I highly recommend. All right, see you guys next week.